Anticipation is very high for South of Midnight, and it weaves together a compelling story about pain and empathy in one of the most beautiful games thanks equally to its unique art style and its incredible score. Unfortunately, from a gameplay perspective, it's a shallow experience. It's not bad, but the major crux is that the gameplay fails to evolve. The combat lacks depth, traversal becomes rote, and there is too much filler. The good news is that what South of Midnight might lack in gameplay depth, it more than makes up for with a powerful story, unmatched style, and impeccable atmosphere. South of Midnight is a love letter to the American Deep South, more specifically Southern folklore told through the eyes of Hazel as she discovers her powers as a weaver. We join Hazel during the middle of a hurricane, and as the water keeps rising, Hazel's mother gets washed away in their home. It's during this traumatic experience and trying to do whatever she can that Hazel discovers she has powers beyond this world that she never knew about. Hazel's journey will take her across the fictional southern county of Prospero. There are numerous parallels with Hazel's journey and the Wizard of Oz. The world that she finds herself in now doesn't quite resemble the one that she's used to, as it now has a gothic horror tone. Hazel will also meet a lot of interesting characters on her journey that share a lot of the themes like finding yourself, helping others, and understanding that there is no place like home. Through her powers as a weaver, Hazel becomes highly attuned to the universe at an emotional level, which gets us to the core of what South of Midnight is about, which is empathy. Obviously, love, hate, pain, burden, and guilt are all players in this show, but it revolves around empathy, and Hazel's journey is to set things right that have been wrong for generations in the region. Your journey to find your mother crosses paths with mystical creatures that are consumed by negative emotions, and you wield the ancient Weaver powers to help with their trauma. It might be hard to label a Weaver, but the powers that they possess have the ability to help people with their deep-rooted pain and untangle the knots that they cause. Most people heading into South of Midnight know what to expect. However, experiencing the game goes beyond expectations. Stunning might be an overused term when describing a game, but South of Midnight is nothing short of stunning across multiple facets beyond just the obvious art style. South of Midnight has the expectation of a strong narrative, atmosphere, and style, but even before the game begins, there is a full claymation stop-motion cinematic that really sets the tone. Despite the whole game taking place in the same region of the Prospero County, due to the imagination of this world and the stunning brilliance of lighting to emphasize the time of day, the setting never feels stale. It also helps that Compulsion leans into the fantastical nature of this Oz-inspired world to constantly make Hazel and the audience feel out of place and in shock. South of Midnight tells a unique story with an even more unique art style and some of the best original music that I've ever heard in a game. There are the monumental songs which steal the show and usually happen at the culmination of the chapter, but they can also happen at any touching moment. These crescendos are always powerful, but the overall score throughout is nearly as impressive, with plenty of southern-inspired folk music and orchestral scores that serve as the backdrop to your adventure. However, the unsung hero to the immersion is the environmental audio, as it truly transports you into this world with the chirp of a bird, the bubbling of the creeks, and the buzz of the cicadas. Everything feels so realistic. I would also be remiss to discuss the monumental achievements of South of Midnight without mentioning the vocal performances from every character, Hazel especially. Every single line of dialogue feels authentic, genuine, and every character you meet along your journey pulls you deeper into this world. The performances give weight to the emotional depth of the script, which features some very heavy moments that I was not expecting. The biggest issue with South of Midnight is that it had so much potential. The mechanics are all in place but fail to blossom into systems that are rewarding and match the level of quality set by the rest of the game. To begin with, combat is more than capable with quick attacks and precise dodges. Its only true problem is that the lock-on mechanic can sometimes be hard to determine who you're targeting. The lack of evolution is the real issue. Once you acquire all the powers, which happens early on, combat fails to expand and challenge the player. It was the same arenas with the same enemy types that are mostly Ravagers and Larvae that eventually became monotonous. There are upgrade powers which are neat, but they fail to alter the combat in meaningful ways, as it always ends in mashing the attack button. It wasn't until the Brutes arrived in Chapter 7 that the combat provided a more rewarding experience, as this enemy demanded a bit more patience and timing. In addition to the combat, the exploration never trusted the player's intelligence. Everything immediately glows or points you where to go. And despite the plethora of accessibility options that South of Midnight features, there is no way to remove the instant glowing even in custom mode. This would have provided a more rewarding feeling. As for the actual traversal itself, it just became repetitive. It featured a core mechanic of jumps, dashes, climbing and wall running, and grappling, but it just became a system of rinse and repeat. The wall climbing felt akin to Nathan Drake or Lara Croft, and there was a grapple point that almost felt like web slinging, but traversal always devolved into the same loop that served as a means to get you to the next battle arena or the next story beat, and nothing more. Finally, at the end of nearly every chapter is a chase scene which is clearly designed to put an emphasis on tension due to the high tempo score and the immediacy in Hazel's voice, but these sequences just felt void of the thrill that they are trying to provoke. These chases go on for far too long, they never feel challenging, and they just felt like filler to a game that didn't require it. The common thread with South of Midnight isn't that there's something wrong, it's more what's missing and what isn't right, which can be equally as damaging. The combat is great, but it never evolves. Exploring the world is fun, but trust is never given. The traversal is satisfyingly fast and fluid, but it becomes rote. Most detrimental to the experience is that the ending is fine, but absent is the ending that this incredible adventure deserved. If you have the right expectations, you will be delightfully pleased, and if you're on Game Pass, South of Midnight is a must. South of Midnight delivers a powerful story with unmatched atmosphere that easily overshadows the simplicity of the gameplay. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe and find a lot more like it. Video games is a positivity-first gaming outlet. We believe that gaming should be a force for good. We focus on making uplifting content with constructive discussions and celebrating what makes games great. We've also just recently opened up Super Thanks, so if you've always wanted to show your appreciation to the channel, now you have a way to do so. That's all for today, and until next time, be good to your fellow gamer, but more importantly, be better to your fellow human.